Have you ever walked into someone's home and within moments felt like you didn't belong? As we grow older, those subtle feelings speak louder. We begin to value calm over chaos, sincerity over politeness, and connection over obligation. Our time becomes more sacred, not because it's running out, but because we finally understand its worth. And yet many of us still find ourselves in spaces that leave us emotionally drained or quietly disrespected, all because we don't want to disappoint or we're simply used to saying yes. But the truth is not every door deserves to be walked through. Some homes may smile at your arrival, but never embrace your presence. Others may feel cold, tense, or full of conversations that leave you questioning your worth. In today's video, we'll gently explore the kinds of homes that, no matter how free you are simply not worth returning to. It's not about judgment, it's about peace. The kind of peace that lets your heart breathe easy. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's reflect together on where you truly belong and where it's okay to stop knocking. Number 1, the home where you are not genuinely welcome. There comes a time in life when you no longer have to force your presence, where it's not truly appreciated. Perhaps you felt it before, that quiet, unspoken tension the moment you walk through someone's door. The smiles are thin, the greetings are rushed, and though no one says it outright, you can feel it in your bones. You're not really wanted there. It's a subtle kind of rejection that stings more as we grow older, because by now we've learned to listen to what silence truly means. Henry, a retired postman in his early 70s, once shared a moment that stuck with me. One Sunday afternoon, he drove across town to visit a distant cousin. He brought homemade cookies, hoping to catch up and relive old memories. But the visit was brief. The TV stayed on the whole time. No one looked up from their phones, and as he sat there holding a cup of lukewarm coffee, he realized he was there out of habit, not out of anyone's joy. He left early cookies untouched with a smile on his face, but a quiet ache in his chest. We deserve more than that in this stage of life. We've earned the right to be around people who welcome us, not out of duty, but from the heart. So if you ever feel like an obligation, if the air grows colder when you walk into the room, if your stories are met with distracted nods, or if your visits are always met with excuses, it's okay to step away. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with peace. Because your time, your presence, your energy, they're sacred, they are gifts, and gifts should never be handed to those who only see them as burdens. Choose instead the company of those who light up when you arrive. Those who listen, who laugh, who care. Even if that circle is smaller, it will feel more like home than any house filled with lukewarm greetings ever could. At this age, peace isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And part of finding that peace is learning to say, I choose not to go where I am only tolerated. I choose joy, I choose warmth, I choose respect. So don't visit the home where you are not genuinely welcome. You've spent a lifetime offering love. Make sure the love that surrounds you now feels real in return. Number 2, the home where drama and negativity rule. As we grow older, our time becomes more precious, not because it's running out, but because we've finally learned what truly matters: peace, kindness, and quiet joy. These are the things that nourish us in our golden years. And yet some homes feel like they drain all that goodness from you the moment you step inside. You know, the kind where the TV is always blaring with arguments. The air hums with tension, and conversations turn quickly into complaints or gossip. Where someone's always upset, offended, or fuming about something. And they expect you to take sides to fix it or to just sit quietly and absorb it. There's a woman I know, her name's Elaine. She's 76, bright as morning light, with a gentle laugh that once filled every room she entered. But she used to visit her niece every week out of habit, not joy. Her niece's home was chaotic. Her adult children were always bickering. The kitchen table was a war zone of resentments. And the only thing louder than the arguments was the bitterness in the silences that followed. Elaine would sit there with her cup of tea growing cold, a soft smile on her face, trying not to take it all in. But you could see it in her eyes. It exhausted her. One day she stopped going, not with a fight, not with an explanation, just quietly, lovingly. She chose herself. She still sends birthday cards, she still cares, but she no longer walks into spaces that cloud her peace. Because at this stage in life, we must become fiercely protective of our energy. We've weathered enough storms. We don't need to be dragged into new ones we didn't cause. So if you find yourself leaving someone's home with a heavy heart and a cluttered mind, more often than not, it's okay to stop going. You're not walking away out of bitterness. You're walking toward something softer. You're walking toward the quiet homes, the warm ones where stories are shared over tea, not shouted across the room. Homes where the conversation brings laughter, not tension, where you feel lighter after leaving, not heavier. You deserve to spend your time with people who lift you, not drain you. In rooms where the air is easy and the smiles are real, don't be afraid to step away from the noise. Choose peace. Choose warmth. Choose places where your spirit can breathe. Because the older you get, the more sacred peace becomes, and no amount of obligation or guilt should cost you that. Number 3, the home where you are only needed, not valued. There's a quiet kind of pain that comes from being treated like a tool instead of a treasure. When your phone rings not out of love, but out of need. Not because someone misses you, but because they need a favor. And for many older adults, this happens more often than anyone cares to admit. You find yourself invited over only when there's a leaky faucet, a last-minute babysitting emergency, or someone needs to borrow money again. But when you just want someone to talk to, when you long for a warm cup of tea and a listening ear, there's silence, not a visit, not a call. I remember a man named Harold, 74 years old and endlessly generous. He was the one everyone in his family called when they needed something. His son would ask him to pick up the grandkids from school, even when Harold had a sore knee. His daughter often needed help around the house and just a little money to get through the week. And Harold always showed up with a smile, with his wallet, with his time. But on his birthday, no one came. He spent it alone with a frozen dinner and an old photo album. One afternoon, while chatting with a neighbor over the fence, Harold said something that stayed with me. "I don't mind helping, I really don't. But I'd like to be invited just because they wanted to see me, not because I'm useful." That's when he decided to start saying no more, often not out of spite, but out of love for himself. He joined a book club at the community center, reconnected with an old friend from the army, and slowly he started surrounding himself with people who appreciated him simply for who he was, not for what he could do. Because here's the truth: your time, your kindness, your presence, they are gifts. In any relationship where you are only called upon in times of need, but forgotten when joy or connection is what you seek, that's not love, that's convenience. You deserve reciprocity, companionship, genuine care, not just requests, not just responsibilities. So if you find yourself always giving and rarely receiving, pause. Reflect. You are not selfish for stepping back. You are wise. And the more you respect your own heart, the more you'll find yourself surrounded by those who do the same. Choose homes where you are welcomed, not used, where you are loved, not relied upon like a service. Because the most beautiful thing about aging is realizing you no longer need to prove your worth, you just need to protect it. Number 4, the home where you feel like a burden. There's something unspoken but unmistakable about walking into a place where you're not truly wanted. You knock on the door, and when it opens, the smile doesn't quite reach their eyes. The welcome feels thin, like it was rehearsed. Maybe they glance at the clock a little too often, or you catch that impatient shift in their posture, the way they hover near the door, as if already waiting for the visit to end before it's even begun. You sit there trying to make polite conversation, but the warmth is missing. The air feels heavy, and somewhere deep inside you begin to wonder, am I intruding? Mary, 72, once told me about a visit she made to an old friend's home. They hadn't seen each other in a while, and Mary had brought over some of her famous banana bread, hoping to reconnect. But when she arrived, her friend seemed surprised and not in a joyful way. The TV stayed on during their chat, and instead of catching up, the conversation felt clipped, distracted. After just 20 minutes, the friend said, "I've got a lot to do today, so maybe we'll catch up another time." Mary left with the bread still in her bag and a quiet ache in her heart. Moments like these teach us something vital. Being tolerated is not the same as being welcomed. And when you reach this stage of life where every moment holds more meaning, you owe it to yourself to be in places that feel light, not heavy, uplifting, not draining. You should never have to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's comfort. Never have to second guess whether your presence is appreciated. There is a dignity in simply deciding, this space doesn't feel good for me, and choosing not to return. It doesn't require an argument. It doesn't demand an explanation. Just a quiet honoring of your worth. Visit the homes where the door swings open with joy, where time stretches not because they're eager for you to leave, but because they truly enjoy your company, where your stories are listened to, not just heard, where your presence is a blessing, not a burden, because you are not asking for too much. You are simply asking to be received with the same warmth you bring into the room, and that is something you absolutely deserve. Number 5, the home where you are disrespected. Respect isn't something we should have to ask for, especially not after a lifetime of giving, caring, and showing up for others. It should be a given. A quiet acknowledgement of all the years, wisdom, and kindness you carry. And yet some homes make you feel like none of it matters. Imagine this. You're seated at the table trying to share a memory from your younger days. Something meaningful, but before you can finish, someone cuts you off. The topic changes. Your voice fades into the background. Maybe it wasn't done out of cruelty, just carelessness, but it still hurts. Or perhaps it's more directed, dismissive tone, an eye roll, a comment like, "You just don't get how things work anymore." It's subtle sometimes, but it lingers, it stings. Mr. Raymond, a retired mechanic and proud grandfather, once shared a story that stayed with me. He used to visit his daughter's home every Sunday. At first it felt like tradition, but over time he noticed how his opinions were brushed aside. His grandchildren would laugh when he forgot something, and his daughter, though she didn't mean to, would speak to him like he was a child. One Sunday he stood at the door, pie in hand, and hesitated. I realized, he said, I was going out of habit, not because it made me feel good. That day he made a new decision. He started spending Sundays at the local park, instead joining other seniors who swapped stories with warmth, listened without interrupting, and valued each other's company. It wasn't about the pie, he laughed. It was about being seen, being heard. You see, it's never too late to walk away from places that make you feel small. Your time, your story, your presence. They deserve reverence, not applause, not fanfare, just simple, sincere respect. If you ever find yourself in a home where you feel invisible or worse, unwanted pause, ask yourself, does this place honor who I am? And if the answer is no, it's okay to leave. There's nothing selfish about choosing peace, about surrounding yourself with people who look at you and see all the life you've lived, not someone to correct or ignore, but someone to learn from, laugh with, and love deeply. You've earned that, every bit of it. Number 6, the home that drains your mind. Sometimes it's not the words people say, it's the way a place makes you feel. You walk through the door and something inside you tightens. The smiles are thin, the air is tense, and though no one says it outright, the energy speaks volumes. Maybe there's constant bickering, passive-aggressive remarks, or simply a cold indifference that leaves you wondering why you came at all. You sit there counting the minutes, already feeling drained before the first cup of tea is finished. Dorothy, a graceful 78-year-old widow, once shared a story that many can relate to. Every month she visited her cousin's family more out of tradition than desire. They weren't outright cruel, but the atmosphere always felt heavy. The conversation was often judgmental, filled with complaints and subtle digs about her lifestyle, how she chose to live alone, garden too much, or spend her afternoons painting instead of doing something useful. After every visit, Dorothy would come home with a headache and a heart full of unease. One afternoon, as she sat alone in her little sunroom surrounded by her blooming lilies and watercolors, she asked herself a powerful question. Why do I keep choosing spaces that don't choose me? That was the last time she went back. Not because of an argument, not because of a dramatic goodbye, but because she had finally learned that peace is not something you find. It's something you protect. And protecting your peace means paying attention to how you feel. Especially as you age, your mental and emotional well-being matter just as much as your physical health. If a home stirs up anxiety, sadness, or leaves you emotionally worn down, it's okay to stay away. It doesn't mean you love people any less. It simply means you love yourself enough to set boundaries. Spend your time in places that bring you comfort, not conflict. Surround yourself with people who speak with kindness, who listen without judgment, who make you feel seen, safe, and supported. These are the homes that restore your spirit, not chip away at it. You've carried enough in this life. Now is the time to lighten your load, to choose joy, and to prioritize the places where your soul can breathe freely. Because the truth is simple. If it costs you your peace, it's far too expensive, and you, my friend, are worth more than that. Number 7, the home you've outgrown. As we get older, life has a way of refining us. Our hearts soften, our priorities shift, and what once thrilled us may now feel hollow. We begin to crave depth over noise connection, over chatter in spaces that feel like quiet sanctuaries rather than crowded stages. But sometimes we find ourselves walking into homes where we used to belong, only to realize that we've changed and they haven't. Eleanor, a 75-year-old retired nurse, once shared how she used to spend every other Saturday with a group of old friends from her working days. At first it felt familiar. They'd talk, laugh, share updates, but over time she noticed something unsettling. The conversations never moved beyond surface-level gossip or complaints. There was no curiosity about the world, no reflection, no growth. She tried steering the dialogue toward books she'd read or the gardening projects she loved, but it was often met with indifference or a quick change of subject. I realized, she said gently, every time I left, I felt smaller. It's not that those people were bad. They were simply in a different place, walking a different path. But Eleanor was on a journey inward, a journey of healing, learning, and becoming, and that path required different company. There comes a time when we must be brave enough to step back, not with resentment, but with grace. If a home brings you back to habits or mindsets you've worked hard to grow beyond, it's okay to let go. You don't have to shrink to stay connected. You don't have to dim your light to match someone else's shadow. Growth, especially later in life, is a gift. It's the soft unfolding of your spirit, the deepening of your wisdom, and the blossoming of who you've always been beneath the noise of the world. And that growth deserves to be nurtured in places where you feel inspired, not stifled. Choose homes where your voice is heard, your evolution is celebrated, and your presence feels welcomed, not merely tolerated. Surround yourself with those who feed your soul, challenge your thinking in kind ways, and encourage you to keep expanding. Because in these years, perhaps the richest yet, you deserve more than just familiarity. You deserve alignment, meaning, and spaces that meet you where you are now, not where you used to be. As the seasons of life change, so too does our understanding of where we truly belong. Not every home will feel like a refuge. Not every connection deserves to be carried into this next chapter. And that's okay, because with age comes the quiet wisdom that peace is more precious than politeness, and your presence is a gift that should never be spent where it isn't valued. You've earned the right to be intentional, to walk away not in anger, but in clarity, to let go not with bitterness, but with grace. Every moment you spend in a place that drains you is a moment taken from your joy. And joy at this stage of life is not just a desire, it's a responsibility. Choosing peace isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's a way of saying, I matter too. So if today's message spoke to your heart, take it as a gentle reminder. You don't need permission to protect your spirit. Let go of guilt, let go of pressure. Embrace the quiet power of saying no to what no longer serves you and yes to what makes you feel whole. Comment, choose peace if this resonated with you. And if you'd like to keep walking this path of wisdom and self-respect, feel free to subscribe for more moments of reflection like this. Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind to yourself, and above all, stay at peace. A beautiful life is still unfolding.